and gentlemen, here on WCEG Network, the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group Network. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook, like us on Twitter, follow us on Twitter, like us on every social media platform that you can think of. We are there. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Joe Flint, all one word, like a tribe called Quest, here on the People's Choice. And I am privileged tonight to have with us, I don't know if you all noticed, but we have some pink and black going on here. I'm privileged tonight to have the watchdog of all watchdogs, the godmother of all godmothers, Miss Damita Chatman with me. My ace boom coon in this here political season that has been going on. In addition to Miss Chatman, we have with us the Right Reverend. You know, that's how they say it way back in the day. The Right Reverend, Mr. Gregory Williams, who will be joining us as well this evening. He is our special guest. He'll be talking to us about the preachers that went down to participate in, well, I'll just put it this way. We don't need any more black preachers to come down here. That's where he went to participate in the Ahmaud Arbery case that took place here in Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I want to welcome my guests. Thank you all so very much for being here this evening. How's everybody doing?
Thank you for having us.
Good. Pastor, we thank you so much. Damita, listen, we got to jump right in here. I'm sorry I missed you earlier, Damita. You know, I've been shuffling and pushing funeral carts around here the past few days. So, but here, listen, we are hours away, 24 hours almost to be exact, before the polls will close on tomorrow to find out who will be the next mayor of the city of Atlanta, as well as the next mayor of the city of South Fulton. Damita, I just got to know. What do you think is going to happen?
Bill Edwards going to pull it off tomorrow. He's going to pull it off. I believe it's going to be, I'm going to say 35%, and Bill going to take the rest. I'm just going to tell the people, Joe, you can't be bamboozled. You know, a lie, like I say, a lie go all the way across the world and come back. So I'm just telling the voters to make sure you have the facts. You know, everything look like a chief ain't a sheep. So I say Bill is going to pull that off tomorrow. JC's going to pull it off in District 4. It's time for new leadership, and we can't go back. Like I said before, when we became a city, you know, we this city that sits on the hill. Right. And so God gonna show up tomorrow, and I just don't believe that God brought us this far to turn us back. So I'm positive. Now, Joe, if we don't make it there tomorrow, I need you to come by my house and take me to Grady. But I don't want to stay down Grady for 2 days. That's it, just 2 days.
Damita, I'll make sure you get there. I'll make sure I don't know. Depending on who the mayor of Atlanta tomorrow, you may not want to go to Grady either. We may have to take.
So what you think about the mayor in Atlanta?
Well, you know, Damita, I'm gonna say this, and this is the craziest thing, but the way that the race is looking now, you know, I used to think without a doubt that Felicia Moore was going to be able to pull it out, but Andre has so much clout and pull right now, and I mean, it's like how the folks say, the city coming out for him, and there are people that are pushing and pressing for him to become Atlanta's next mayor. And I will say this, the one up that he has is that he is a native. You know, he went to school here. He's from Atlanta. I think he went to Mays High School.
I'm gonna chime in. I went to Mays with him. We were together.
Well, we won't listen. There's only one high school in Atlanta. I need you to know that.
Yeah, Mays High.
No, that's the illustrious, the renowned, the best kept secret in the city of Atlanta, Booker T. Fair Washington Comprehensive High School. Why high? Bulldog pride. There's only one high school.
My mother-in-law would agree with you.
There you go. Now, and I can't talk. My daughters both. My first daughter is a graduate of Mays, and my second daughter is a senior there now. So I can't even argue. I can't argue with it. But he has, Andre has that Atlanta, you know, that ATL in him, and so. Atlantans, you know, we always talk about implants. I know I talk about it. No offense to me. I'm not. No offense to you, Pastor Williams, either. But I will say this: that has been a big plug for him. I like Felicia Moore. I've known her for a number of years. I think that she has done a fantastic job working on the city council. But I just think it's going to be one hell of a, and I'm saying hell of a push tomorrow for her to outdo him. But we shall see. We know that tomorrow will tell us who our next mayor will be. But let me say this in all of this. I think the citizens and the state loses so much money because of these runoffs. And we've talked about this before. Runoff elections are a waste of taxpayer dollars simply because it has this 50+1 rule, and they won't get rid of it. And it's only benefiting the parties and not the people.
Amen.
I agree. I agree.
It is ridiculous because here's another 30 days of election workers and whoever else. There are some people who, people who are working at the polls, of course, if they don't have jobs, this is income that they're, being able to obtain during this time. But just in general, the state itself, the money that is being put forward by the polling locations and all the money that people are having to spend, even the candidates themselves having to go back and find some more money to push even further, into the runoff. So it's a lot of money. I think that Georgia really needs to, the parties need to come together for a partisan discussion to get rid of the 50+1 rule in Georgia. So that on election day, whatever day it is, we can know who the candidate will be rather than waiting another 30 days for it. But I don't doubt that in the city of South Fulton, Bill Edwards will pull through. And it's just looking to me like Andre Dickens will pull through in Atlanta and become Atlanta's next mayor.
I'm going to say Felicia.
You believe Felicia? I think, listen, Felicia has the power. She has the game. But I read an article the other day. Now, it doesn't go into exactly what she was saying, but they can twist words. The article was basically saying that she was going to close down all of Atlanta nightclubs and strip clubs. And there was someone who was a club owner who wrote, I can't remember the name, I have to find it, but he wrote an article about it and saying that, that's stripping away business owners' rights and privileges to be able to entertain. And apparently she's I forget how it said, is something about rezoning, to deal with those nightclubs and those strip clubs. So that'll be interesting to see where it comes about. But the article went on to say that that's the right wing holding on and trying to take over Atlanta because they included Mayor Norwood in it, and they also included the Buckhead Coalition in that article. When I find it, I'll make sure I send it to you. Right. But I would love to see Felicia, but I don't know, Andre. He's got a train smoking behind him.
Do you think the endorsement of Mayor Bottoms hurt him because it all lead back to that Kasim Reed?
I'm going to be honest to tell you, I don't think it helped him. I don't think it hurt or helped because at this point she's mute. She's a mute point. She is not moving forward. She didn't she only served one term, and the city is kind of up and down about her. She's able to get out celebrities and things of that nature. So when it comes to celebrities, those celebrities came to back Andre a little more because of her. But I just I don't know that her endorsement made any adjustments for him. I don't know that. I can't say that it helped him, but I don't know that it hurt him either.
Okay, what do you think about the other races? Since you're so familiar with Atlanta, Joe, what you think?
Well, to be honest,
you got Keisha Waits and Labat.
Listen, I need Keisha to get a job. Somebody got to give her a job. She's been running for every position that I could possibly think of since I've been around there. I think Labat has an opportunity. Her name recognition in and of itself, will probably pull her over the threshold. Keisha is just, I feel like she has a servant spirit, but she runs for every open position. So that's a concern for me because it's not always city council. It may be something else. So that's a concern for me. But I wish them all the best in honest to God truth. I haven't paid much attention to the council member seats, and that's personally my fault because I've just been eyeing the mayor's race just to see what was going to come out about it. But I just believe that they all, this is the time for Atlanta's new leadership. And so it's time for us to turn over a new leaf. And I'm saying us, I don't even live in the city anymore. I live in Conyers, but I always say that it's time for Atlanta to turn over a new leaf. And if the Buckhead Coalition gets what it wants, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see some new things here very soon. Pastor Williams, I want you to join in on here. I don't want you to think that we not.
Yeah, we want to hear what you got to say.
What you?
Well, I was going to ask a question. What do you all think about the demographic changes in Atlanta with regard to gentrification? How would that impact the election and Atlanta going forward?
Well, see, again, to that Buckhead Coalition and the Mary Norwood group of individuals, that's part of what that article was saying. And I promise I'm gonna go back and find it. But it was saying that particular, along with gentrification and things of that nature, it is removing the Black Atlanta and bringing in a whole nother group of individuals and taking away the city that we have, fought to keep for so many years. I think overall, the current candidates have an opportunity, well, not much of an opportunity anymore. They have 24 hours, but I think they have an opportunity to really show how Atlanta is able to mesh and work with everybody. But the problem for me, and I've said this a million times, is that the Black leadership in Atlanta has not always shown, its work in the communities. I rode down Ashby Street the other day. Ashby Street has been toe up my entire life, or Joseph B. Loud. My whole life has been toe up, but now all of a sudden it's paved. And all of this stuff only takes place when it's time for new leadership or when they're running for office. Why now? Why wasn't this done before now? And you want me to jump on your bandwagon and vote for you because you've just now paved the street that's been toe up for 50 years? And the thing that bothers me is that the Black leadership in Atlanta has had many opportunities to make amends, to clean up our area, to clean up our city, and to make it look better. Now, granted, all the citizens have a place and a purpose that they play and a part and a role that they play in all of it. But our leadership has not always played in part to the communities for which they serve. This has been, my family is from Dixie Hills and Martin Luther King, and that place has been the same since I was a child. I've been leadership there, and no offense to the leaders, but just in general, what have you done other than that store that's at the corner of Anderson Avenue and Martin Luther King that's been 50 different businesses, but nothing that is enticing and making the community better?
Joe, it's funny for you to bring that up because when I got off the show this afternoon, I got a call from a resident that lives in South Fulton, and he said that he wanted to have a hard conversation with me next week, and he brought up about Martin Luther King, the Martin Luther King streets around the country, and he said it's a shame that even when you go down there right now to where the Joe Louis Memorial is at, he say it's horrible, the trash. And he say even the Martin Luther King streets, every Martin Luther King street is primarily in the ghetto of all the cities, when you're going in the Black area, and it's horrible. And he was saying it got to start with the leadership of why haven't you taken care of these areas? And it's funny you brought that up because I have to agree with him. Even when I was down there in Florida a couple of weeks ago, Martin Luther King, and I was like, wow, it's horrible.
It's on purpose now. But guess who has the opportunity to make the difference? The city leaders. And in Atlanta, we have had Black leadership for over 50 years, so right at 50 years. Next year will be 50 years because Maynard Jackson took hold in 1972, I think it was. So 50 years we have had a Black mayor in Atlanta and a predominantly Black city council. And again, I'm not taking away from the citizens' responsibility because citizens have a huge part into playing and making sure that their communities are safe and standard. But I don't see those council members out in their communities doing anything. I don't see the mayors out in the community making, asking the community to police up the area. When I see policing up, where I see the same community clean up at, I see it in the same places. I see it over downtown on Piedmont. They may do one over on Cascade, but in the affluent Cascade, they'll do some up in Ansley Park area. They're in the same areas, but never in the areas that they need to go in. For instance, the Bluff, that I never see policing and cleaning up over and policing. I'm using that military term. Policing is picking up trash and stuff, but I never see that in the Bluff area. So Pastor Williams, to your point, I think that Atlanta has a lot of, and I use this word sparingly, but healing to do for its citizens. And the leadership has a lot to do. And to that point, Damita, of Martin Luther King, everywhere you go, every place that I've visited, and I've, prior military, so I've visited a lot of places, and Martin Luther King Jr. Drive is the same everywhere. And it is specifically in the Black community. But the only go ahead, Pastor Williams. I'm sorry.
Let me chime in. Approximately 10, 15 years ago, I pastored a church, Holy Temple, CME Church, Charlotte Place, Bankhead Highway, now Hollowell. And one thing I said that got me in a lot of trouble from the pulpit was that I want to see more people walking to church than driving.
That's it.
And one of the things that hurt Atlanta was the Black flight. When there was a season when everybody decided to move outside of the perimeter, and you lost that citizenship engagement. And so it's a challenge because you have a citizenship now where you don't have those educated. My father lived on Haldane Drive off Peyton Place. His next door neighbor was a custodian while he was a pastor. And then the president of, I think, Morris Brown College lived across the street. All of them lived in the same area. So you had that citizenship engagement. But now, currently, you don't have those people who are going to go to City Hall and demand that the leadership speak and act and produce policies on behalf of the citizen.
Right. I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's unfortunate. I hope and pray that in the next, mayor's term or 2 terms or however long, whichever candidate gets into office, I hope that they take a closer look, as we'll say in the pulpit, a didactic look.
A hermeneutical look.
Take a didactic look at the city and see where the work needs to be done. I'm native born. I'm born and raised. I'm a Grady baby. I love my city. I don't see the joy that I saw when I was a little boy, because again, where my great grandmother's house is on Penelope Road, those houses were nice, put together homes back when they were built. But now the community is run down. Dixie Hills, although they had apartments and things back, it was still a nice community. There are few Black communities in Atlanta that are still, holding on, but those residents, your point, they're 70, 80, 90 years old, and then soon they'll be gone. And many of their children and grandchildren don't want the homes, so they'll sell it. I think about this all the time. In the Collier Heights community, historic Collier Heights community, on the corner of Shorter and Waterford. If you're familiar with this, that corner house was oh goodness, what's the guy? I can't call his name. The Black architect for Atlanta. I can't call his name. Herman Russell. That's his house on the corner. Next door to his house was Gene Dodd, who was an Atlanta board member who taught school for 30 plus years and was a board member for 12 years. But no offense to any race, creed, or color. No offense to any race, creed, or color. But guess who lives in that house now? A white woman. A white woman lives in Gene Dodd's house.
Wow.
Not her daughter, not the grandchildren, anybody else. And there's nothing against that. I don't have a problem with that. Everybody's got to live somewhere. But that community raised and showed, that was one of the first Black communities for African Americans in Atlanta, specifically for us. So I'm with you 100% about that. Pastor Williams, let me jump because I'll go all day and we'll for a minute. But it's just sad, ladies and gentlemen, for us to see Atlanta and know the history of Atlanta. Atlanta is the civil rights capital. And to know that that even you will go to other places that the civil rights movement went through, and their cities look better than Atlanta does. And this is where the movement, it didn't really start here, but this was the capital for the movement. And so it's amazing to me. Pastor Williams, now tell us a little more about yourself, sir. I want to make sure that we know who you are and where you're from. We lost you there. Oh, there you are. Where are you from?
My son was calling, probably asking for some money. I was born in Birmingham, Alabama, Fairfield. Raised on the college campus, Miles College, whereas I told you earlier, my father was president from 1971 to 86. Wow. Came to Atlanta when he retired, went to Benjamin Elijah Mays High School, and graduated from Texas College and got a master's degree from the Interdenominational Theological Center, Phillips School of Theology. And I've been just pastoring on the Chitlin circuit up until this point.
That's good preaching there when you go to the Chitlin circuit. That's
yeah, Chitlin circuit. I've been all over the rural Georgia.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I stay on the Chitlin circuit, so I know what you're talking about. Well, Pastor Williams, again, we thank you so much for joining us this evening. Now, I appreciate you, and I thank you for your leadership and what you're doing, from the pulpit, ensuring that God's people are aware, that we must be saved in order to get to where we want to be.
Right.
But I also appreciate your activism and the fact that you don't mind coming out of the pulpit, out of the four walls, and actually doing the work of the Lord beyond those four walls. And that's one of the reasons why I want to reach out to you and have you here with us today. I understand that you were part of the group of preachers that went down to make Black preachers known. When he wasn't a prosecutor, he was a defense attorney. Who made the statement, and I'm paraphrasing, can we not have any more Black preachers come down here? And
he messed up when he said that.
Listen, he must not know about Black preachers. He just
don't know us very well.
Did not know. They like to say that we don't come together, but one group, you can't mess with no Black preacher. You can't mess with no usher board, and you can't mess with no Black preachers.
And you don't mess with the kitchen committee.
And you all made it down there. So tell us about that pilgrimage. Tell us about that experience down there.
Well, I have to be honest. I was not planning on going up until that Monday. I was really watching it on the news and being prayerful in my own home. But as they say in the church, late in the midnight hour.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Don't turn around.
I just felt a calling. I felt an urge, and I told my wife I was supposed to go someplace else on that Thursday, but I told my wife that I just feel like I need to be there, and I called my Bishop Thomas L. Brown, and I asked if he wanted to go, and I'd drive him, and so he did, and we drove down that Wednesday night, and got up that early that morning, and drove over to Anderson Chapel CME Church where we parked our cars. Dr. Skip, Reverend Dr. DeAndre Thurman, and Bishop Kenneth Wayne Carter, and Bishop Sylvester Williams, all of us parked, and we walked from the church to the courthouse. Now, this was interesting because as we walked, the courthouse is located in Brunswick, Georgia. It's located right in the hood, like as we were talking about. It's in the hood. So our journey was through the neighborhood. And as we were walking, there was a moment that I knew that God was involved, where we walked past the barbershop, an African-American owned barbershop. And as we were walking, they changed the music to A Change Gonna Come. And it was a surreal moment that we were laughing and joking. But then when that sad song came on, that let me know the Spirit is here. That let me know that this is a God thing. And my whole atmosphere shifted as I heard that song being sung. I think that's Sam Cooke, I believe.
Yes, sir.
And so when we got there, it was just surreal to see all of these pastors, and it wasn't just Black pastors. I have to also admit that it was not just Black. We had some white pastors that had shared with us. They wanted to be a part of the moment and the movement too.
That's amazing. So what was the air like? Excuse me. What was the air like there? And I mean, just the overall presence of everybody there. And what was the conversation like, around the ministers? And I'm sure, of course, there were a lot of preachers, but I'm sure there were a lot of other activists and groups out there. What was the mood like? What was the air like out there?
Well, the air, you have to understand, we pastors have been complacent a lot of us are doing Zoom and Facebook Live church, and we're not in the building, we're not gathering. I was not able to go to our pastors conference last year because of COVID. So this was the first time that all us pastors were able to gather together in the same space. And we had pastors that came all the way from Canada, California, DC. So the spirit was fellowship. When we first got on the property, it was a fellowshipping spirit. But then it shifted. It shifted when Reverend Jesse Jackson came out. And that's when we kind of moved from the sideline to the playing field and saying, okay, this is serious business.
Right.
He made some statements, and Reverend Al Sharpton made some statements, and then the mother of Ahmaud Arbery came out, and she thanked us for being there. Our purpose, my purpose for being there was twofold: to let the family of Ahmaud Arbery know that they to give them what is called the ministry of presence. I'll probably never say a word to her in my life, but I want her to know that we're here.
Yes,
we're with you. You are not alone. But the second thing we came there to do was pray.
Yeah.
Dr. James Forbes talks about the civil rights movement and how the movement was centered around the Spirit of God. And we wanted to make sure that the Spirit of God was represented in that moment. Right. And so all of us made sure that this was a praying time.
Yeah.
With regards to being there.
Wow. So, Damita, did you have something?
No. Wow. Powerful.
Yeah. I honestly hate that I couldn't be there, but it's kind of like chills just thinking about the presence of so many powerful men and women of God being there in support of a family, knowing that the move of God was about to take place in that presence. Did you all face any opposition at all?
I did not see. In fact, just the opposite. To the right, if you walk out the steps of the courthouse to the right, there was a huge field, a parking lot, a huge field, and they placed a tent. And I think it was the Brunswick Chamber of Commerce and some other civic organizations hosted lunch for us.
Really?
I mean, and they went all out. And it wasn't us doing the serving. It was them. I can say it like that if y'all know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
They served us. And it was about 500 pastors who were sitting down under this huge tent, eating lunch. And I asked one of those who were serving, what's your purpose for having this meal for us? And she said that we want you all to know that you're welcome and that what happened to Ahmaud Arbery does not represent this community.
Wow.
They wanted to let us know. And listen, and I'm very clear on all Black people ain't good and all white people ain't bad.
Say that.
So I'm not in this black and white. If you share my value, I don't care about your color.
That's exactly.
So I appreciate it, knowing that this is not a citywide attitude that those three men took against Ahmaud Arbery.
Right. Now, did you all hear any speeches about that day, about the incident itself? Was there anyone there to talk about the incident and how it changed the city or how it changed the mood?
You had, definitely. You had Ben Crump, the family attorney. Reverend Al Sharpton talked about it. And they were both adamant that this was an injustice that does not. Now, these weren't police officers. Right. In George Floyd, that was a police officer. Tamir Rice, these others, those were police. These were just regular Joes who decided to get a gun and do some vigilante KKK work. Right. And they were adamant in saying that justice has to be served in this case, just so that others who are thinking about doing it and they are there to know what will be the repercussions if you take this type of action.
Pastor William, years ago when I was in high school, and I mean that's a score or so ago when I was in high school.
For all of us.
Right. I was on the debate team, and every year, the end of the year, the debate competition would be held at Glenn Academy down in Brunswick, Georgia. And I can remember in the 90s going there, there, at least I didn't see a lot of us when we were going to Brunswick in the 90s. I'm sure, there's no question that we lived there. But when we went to Glenn Academy, if I remember correctly, almost think Glenn Academy is a predominantly Black school. It may not be. I can't remember. But I could just always remember that Brunswick and the area was just odd to me. It was just an odd area. But I hadn't thought much about that area for a number of years up until the Ahmaud Arbery case. And I've been through, vacationing in Tybee Island and Savannah and going, down that way, but just never thought much about it until the Ahmaud Arbery case or incident happened or murder happened. And, it brought up Brunswick all over again. And so it made me to take a closer look at it. But to hear you say that the Chamber of Commerce, those that don't look like us, made the statement that we want you to know that this is not our community. And I would go out on a limb to say that there are probably a lot of other areas, rural parts of Georgia, that'll probably say the same thing. But there's just always that small group of individuals, small group of bad apples who always want to be the vigilante or the, the whoever they think they are to cause issues in their area.
Well, let me chime in real quick.
Yeah.
Make no mistake about it. Brunswick, Georgia is a resort city.
No, yes.
It's on the coast.
Yes.
And I'm sure a lot of their economy is based on resort. And I'm sure that Chamber of Commerce wants to let us know that we is welcome.
Amen.
So
right.
I appreciated the barbecue sandwiches, but at the same time, I'm always looking at what's the angle.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Of course.
Right.
There's no question about that.
Yeah. But I appreciated them for the gesture, though. I don't want to whitewash over that. That let me know that everybody in Brunswick ain't, and even here in Atlanta, they say Atlanta's a city too busy to hate. So we understand. We get it.
If no other city understands, Atlanta definitely understands.
Exactly.
Yes,
right.
sir. Yes, sir. Damita, any questions?
I want to ask him pastor a question. What do you think? How this trial gonna go out with the young man that got killed over there at Wendy's? Are you paying close attention to that?
I have not as of yet. You mean the young man that was murdered last year in Atlanta?
Yes.
Wendy's. I have not been paying close attention as of yet. In fact, Ahmaud Arbery, that case, and the Rittenhouse case has taken a lot of my attention. Hopefully we'll have the same outcome because I saw that video over and over again. And that young man was shot in his back. I went to the mural at Wendy's afterwards, and I had a conversation with some of those who were standing immediately after that had happened. And I got an even deeper appreciation for why that is so important for us to engage in social justice work and holding those accountable who are bad apples.
Pastor Williams and Damita, forgive me for cutting you off, but when that incident happened, I had been down in Macon at a conference in Macon at the Harriet Tubman Museum. And on the way back that evening, that incident happened as I was coming across that bridge on 75. It happened just at that time. All these state troopers flying past me, just running past me. I didn't know what was happening. I thought maybe I had gone a little bit too fast because I had that Cadillac wide open coming back from down there. So I thought maybe they were coming after me. But it happened just as I was coming back into the city. And I didn't know until a day later, what had transpired. And it's just amazing to me to see these types of incidents, continue to unfold. And back to the Rittenhouse case and see individuals be able to get off, on just, in my opinion, and I'm just going to say this, on BS. They get off on it. Just, we know, and I hate to even say this, but we know that there's no way if Rittenhouse was Flint or Williams or Chatman, that if I start crying up there, they would have made any difference in what took place with me. We thank God for the justice that took place for Ahmaud Arbery. But what about those people that killed in Rittenhouse case? And what about
the judge in the, I'm sorry for cutting you off, sir.
No.
Judge in the Rittenhouse case had already found him innocent before he even started.
Yeah, that you're absolutely right.
You can tell with his rulings which side he leaned on. He wouldn't even acknowledge the those who were deceased as victims.
Right.
So we knew what was going to happen then. We knew where he was going. But that's why I say with I don't know. I think he was an elected judge, not a selected judge. That's why I say local elections are way more important. We don't want to vote for judges, and we don't want to vote for city. We need to engage our folk, not just on the national, but engage folk on local. These judges are going to potentially send your children to life sentences for non-violent offenses.
Pastor Williams, that's, believe it or not, that's the whole purpose of having you here today, because of course this show is, focused on the political spectrum across the board, but to have been down there to witness what was taking place and to go a little further into it, understanding that judges are elected officials. And if we aren't paying attention to these individuals, we don't know what their agendas are and what prisons are in their pocket and who's doing anything to pad their pockets to get them to push African-American young men and women, or just people of color in general, into the prison system to continue on with the money that's going there. Quick question. To those who say that Jesse, Sharpton, and Crump are just for show, what do you say about that? What do you say about that?
I disagree totally. I believe, and in fact, after the time we spent at the courthouse, Ben Crump came and ate with us. Didn't have to do that. He spent time with myself and a couple of other pastors at a restaurant, and I had never met him before, but I got a new respect for him for his approachability. I realized then, because I met him personally, that this wasn't just a show, that he has a heart for what he's doing. Right. And I also feel that same way about Reverend Al Sharpton and the Reverend Jesse Jackson. I appreciate those leaders who get national attention, but also continue to keep us focused on the path that we must take to justice.
Right. So you speak of that. So Reverend Williams, let me ask you this question, and it's not often talked about in our community, but that leadership is slowly but surely transitioning on into the ancestral realm. And the truth of the matter is, and I'm not saying that you aren't, or that Damita isn't, or that I'm not, but we don't have those leaders in our community that we had. Our leadership, the Black leadership, is 60. Well, I'm just going to be 70 and above. Right. But when they were the leaders, they were 25 and 35 and 40. Where is the baton being passed? What's happening? Or is it that we're not picking up the baton to move the movement forward?
Well, I've got a couple of things to say. First of all, if you know the story of Dr. King and Abernathy, the mainstream Black preachers did not engage.
No, they didn't.
At the beginning of the movement. They were not popular. Right. And King didn't get popular until later on in the movement. Right. So the Black leadership, or leadership in general, is not a call to popularity. Right. So I think there are pockets of leadership. There are places of leadership where there are, and I salute Black Lives Matter. I salute the work that they're doing. However, my challenge to that movement is, where's the spirit of it? Where are the pastors who are going to bring that spiritual aspect to that particular movement? The second thing I wanted to address about your question is, I had a meeting. I was president of ABLE. I don't know if you're familiar with ABLE, Atlanta's Leadership for Empowerment. I served as president, and I followed Motley. I think it was Reverend Motley or Tim McDonald. And we had a forum with some older pastors and some young preachers, and Reverend Dr. Gerald Durley. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr.
Okay.
Durley.
Yes, yes.
He was
Yeah.
asked, when will the mantle be passed to the next generation? And he said something in that moment. He said, we're not going to pass the mantle. You have to take it.
That's
He said, we're waiting for you to take the mantle. And I believe there is a movement. The pandemic stalled a lot of us out. I know it stalled me out. When the pandemic hit, everything shut down. We couldn't go and be a part. In fact, going to Brunswick was the first openly outward action that I had participated in almost 2 years. But there's opportunity there.
Yes.
There's a reset button that we can press and restart and reshape and reimagine what Black leadership looks like. So we're at the precipice. But I'm rambling. I'm sorry, but I think God is calling us now. I think God is calling preachers and laity and other people in civic society and to step out of our living room Zoom pulpits and go back to doing the work of social justice and social action.
What I have seen, Pastor Williams and Damita, what I've seen is that there's a concern for disrespect if someone takes over the mantle from our civil rights leaders. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but one of my mentors, and I will forever speak his name, is Reverend Albert E. Love. Are you familiar?
Yes.
The Voter Empowerment Collaborative.
There you go.
Yes.
Hey, well, a lot of folks don't remember Boat Rock Baptist Church.
That's it.
That's it.
But Reverend Love was one of the greatest men I have known. Next to my pastor and my father, I just had the greatest admiration and respect for him. But one of the things that Reverend Love said to me one day when I served, for a while as chair of the voter registration and education for the Atlanta branch in AACP. And Reverend Love would always come out to every event that I had. And I asked the question of him one time on the panel. I said, Reverend Love, where do you think the issue is with the voter apathy? And Reverend Love's words were very profound to me. And if I don't remember anything else other than his name, I'll always remember this statement. As he said that, he said Flint, or he called me Joe. He says, Joe, when the civil rights bill was passed, when we got the voting rights and everything, we were excited, we took it, and we ran with it. He says, but you're not going to hear a lot of people say this, but we forgot to pass it on to our children. We forgot to pass it on to our grandchildren. So our children and grandchildren feel like it was something that they've always had, that they didn't have to fight for and anything like that. So to your point of Reverend Durley's statement, there is a, and I don't want to say competing, but there are two voices. There's the group of Reverend Durley and the civil rights leaders who kind of, to his point, don't want to pass it, say they're not just going to give it up, but they got to have somebody to come and take it. But then there's the group of you and I who's behind them wanting to grab hold, but we don't always see that some of them are willing to let go or even admit, like Reverend Love did, that somewhere along the way that they dropped the ball and then give the information to the next generation to go forward. And I'm not saying that's Reverend Durley. I'm not saying that's anybody else, but there's just that middle area right there that there's a group that's ready to take hold, but then there's a group that won't let go. And I have to give this example. I said a million times that John Lewis would die in that seat, and that nobody would be able to come, and I'm not saying that he was not a great leader, but it was far more, it had been time for another generation to come home and take on District 5. But unfortunately, that group of civil rights leaders are not always willing to pass the mantle because they don't feel like the next generation is ready. So is it that we're not showing that we're ready, or do they just believe we aren't ready?
When I went to my first church, Rehoboth CME Church in Johnstonville Settlement in Central Georgia, my pastor asked my bishop, is he ready to pastor? I was younger preacher. I hope I'm still young, but I was a younger preacher.
Yeah.
And my pastor in his wisdom said, no, Bishop, he's not ready. But the only way that he's going to get ready is if you send him.
That's it. That's it.
So we don't have time to get ready.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Folks, our people are dying every week.
Every day.
Yes. Every day.
We don't have this is on the job training for us.
Yes.
But the other thing I wanted to say is about the generations previous. And I hope I'm saying this respectfully, and I'm not defaming.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Dr. King got shot.
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm X was assassinated. Dr. King was assassinated. The question is, and this is what we preachers don't talk about. I'm gonna let y'all in on a little secret. We don't want to get assassinated. There's a fear. Wow. And I'm probably gonna get in a lot of trouble. There's some preachers.
You're good.
You're good.
I'm with you when you're right.
But there is, I mean, folks don't want to put themselves out there. We have created.
Absolutely.
I've heard bishops say, one bishop say that we've created these church islands. You know, and we just pastor within the walls. Because, and I'm not talking about every preacher, because I mean there were thousands down there. There was over 500 pastors in Brunswick. So I'm not talking about every preacher.
Right.
You do have some pastors who are not going to go down to the Capitol and engage and give Governor Kemp a letter on the behalf of a person who's looking at capital punishment and their evidence. There's evidence that they didn't even commit the crime. Myself and Raphael Warnock did that. I forgot the brother's name. But everybody's not going to do that. And we've created these pastoral church congregational islands where we just sit and pastor the people in the pews. Like I told you before, that I got in trouble when I said I wanted people walking to church. I'm tired of pastoring just y'all. I want y'all to help me pastor outside.
Listen, and to add to that is that many churches, and I can't speak for yours, I don't know, but many churches don't even pastor the community for which they are in. They're you know, it's a sad reality. But you know, back in the day, that's what was happening. That's why I have a great respect for Dr. William Holmes Border. Why I have such a great respect for Daddy King and even Maynard Jackson, who, and I said this a show or two ago, they would park their cars and get out and walk and talk to the people in the community for wherever they were and encourage them. But to your point, the island of churches, the island of pastors, the island of pews, it's keeping many of us away, and it's sad. It's sad.
But let me also say this. I'm sorry, brother Flint.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
But it's not. But there are some of us. Now let me qualify my statements. There are a good number of us. We don't get the recognition.
Right.
We don't get the national news. We're not on the front of the newspaper. But there are several of us pastors who are engaged in community action. The question is whether or not we are judged by our national or local recognition, or are we going to be judged by the work that we do? I do not know, but there are some. I mean, Pastor Skip is one who's on the front line, and some others who I know that are on the front lines. But there is a vacuum of leadership. I'm always engaging on voter empowerment. That's what Dr. Love was all about.
Yes,
he
sir.
knew in his wisdom, he knew that the vote would change the atmosphere. He knew that. And when we went down, I went down to Doolittle County. I went down to Peach County and Crisp County and did some canvassing for a Fair Fight and some other organizations. I went down there. We weren't endorsing a candidate. We just wanted folk to register and vote. I ain't telling you who to vote for. Right. But when we registered those folk, y'all see what happened. But we've got to be present.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you a question, Pastor Williams, and I'm not going to step on nobody's toes. I'm trying not to. But how you feel about these preachers that's selling the community out? And I'm gonna give you a good example. When we had a race back here a couple years ago, when you had Black pastors, ministers that endorsed, and I'm not saying you don't have to do it, but they endorsed the white judges over those Black judges. And we just gonna call a spade. It was all about money. But them same judges now that sit down there on Superior Court, those are the same judges that don't want Lil Johnny over in their community. Yeah. Now they don't want Lil Johnny at Lennox. How do you feel about that? Because it was a lot of them that sold us out. I know it was 4 judges that I was very vocal about, and I had asked a couple of them. I said, I need you to go over to so-and-so pastor to see if they would endorse you, support you. And the one young lady come back and she said, I've been knowing him for years, and he told me he was going to endorse the other candidate. But the folks up there on that other side, they don't come but to make their money downtown and to take the road to the airport to go on their vacation. And you don't see them no more in our communities until they come, it's time to vote. And so I have a problem with that because right now they're going to lock our sons up. Yeah. They don't care about Lil Johnny, and Tay-Tay. And so I have a problem with our Black.
Hey, y'all watch out on Tay-Tay now. Don't talk about Tay-Tay now. Don't.
So I have a problem with our Black preachers putting money over the people. It's right now, and I see it right now in the races now. It's all about the dollar, and so I have a problem with some of the preachers. And I am a born again Christian, but if my pastor wrong, I'm gonna call my pastor out and say, I think you're wrong. So tell me what you think about that.
Well, I'll say that there was a pastor who asked his church to buy him a plane. I ain't gonna say the pastor's name, but my response to that was Jesus carried the gospel on a donkey.
Listen.
I think the challenge we have right now is so many of some pastors have become so enamored with money and materialistic things that they're willing to sell their souls and sell out. I think Scripture says, "What profit a man to gain the whole world
and lose his
soul?" And the other thing I said that every preacher ain't called.
You better say that again. What you say now?
Every preacher ain't called.
Everybody ain't called. Some just got up and went. That's
some just went on.
Amen.
And you have to. The Bible says you have to judge a spirit by the spirit. And unfortunately, you have some charismatic, smooth talkers that can get folk mesmerized and. But we've got. I try not to spend a lot of energy on those pastors. I try to spend my energy on seeking out those who share my values, seeking out those who are concerned about the least and the lost. We are the focal point of our church ministry is homelessness, and now we have engaged in human sex trafficking out in Lithonia. Those are and there's a group of pastors who we engage in those areas, and I can rely. What everybody else is doing, I spend very little time on what somebody else is doing, but I do recognize exactly what you mean, and I've been in communication with those pastors, but they don't share my values.
That speaks volumes. Listen, Pastor Williams, I got to tell you this now. I didn't co-sign on that Gulfstream, but when I face Atlanta traffic, sometimes I want a helicopter.
Look. Give me a little twin engine.
Yeah. I'll make it around the engine. I'll make it around it.
Joe, and I heard today somewhere where the pastor, it was funny, the pastor that talked about the plane, he endorsed the folks in Atlanta, but his church over here in the city of South Florida, and he ain't said nothing about
Listen,
the
I
city
ain't
of South
calling no
Fulton
names,
race.
but I saw some people standing behind Felicia Moore. I was like, you don't even live in Atlanta. What you doing today? Like you have no dog in that fight in Atlanta.
Amen.
You're standing right there. But I guess endorsements are endorsements, and people will do that. You know, it all comes back full circle. You mentioned it, Pastor Williams, about, you know, the judges and the people that are serving on these benches, and how important it is that we pay attention to local elections. You know, it's unfortunate that, you know, we have been conditioned to only watch and focus on the major elections, the presidential elections. And, you know, beyond the presidential election, most people don't even pay attention to what's going on. You know, they'll pay attention to the governor's election maybe, but beyond those big name, those big ticket elections, people aren't paying close attention. And I'll even admit, when I was 18, when I first voted, I remember looking at a voter a ticket, and you know, I knew what the word incumbent meant. So I said, well, they've been there, so let's just keep them. And I just went down the line. And I'll admit that at 18, I said, I'm just gonna keep the incumbent. They there, they know something that I don't know. But after I was educated and understood more about the individual, I started to pay closer attention to those, you know, those judges and you know, even the dog catcher. You know, I need to know who is serving in these seats and what are their agendas, because otherwise, our young men and women, little Johnny, whoever, Susan May, whatever you want to call them, will end up being sold down the river because this judge has some kind of pocket in to a prison or something else. And unfortunately, it's happening every day. And so I'm sure Pastor William encouraged, Damita encouraged, and WCEG encourages all of you all to research the candidates. Amen. Take the time to read about who they are and what they're doing. Look at the judges, look at the cases that they have heard, and look at, you know, their conviction rate, you know, and look at who they're convicting. So you'll know, you know, what it's about. But even beyond judges, you know, who look at that type of cases, look at the judges who are passive, you know, who are serving, who make the difference in the laws when cities have to come to courts. It's just important to look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at the very bottom. Go ahead, Pastor Williams. I'm sorry.
Well, real quickly, I was going to say to your point, and then take it a little further. One of the challenges in our community is what I call community disconnect. We need more Damitas. We need more Joes. We need more people in our own communities whom we trust, who we know have done the research. And pastors need to be knowledgeable of this too.
Absolutely.
We can't endorse any candidate from the pulpit. But I can say I like Judge Jones's shoes.
Oh, you have.
I can't say vote for him, but I can from the pulpit say he had a nice suit on last week.
Well, you look, you have them endorsing from the pulpit. I didn't saw. Let me tell you, this was somebody just sent me, and it's heartbreaking because we get so caught up, Joe, on social media. And I always say, I said, these community, the street committee, they love social media. They love the keyboard. At Wolf Creek, only 3,400 folks have voted. Wolf Creek now, of a city with 3,400, and that's a city of 200-some thousand people. Southwest Art Center, 2,400. Fulton Annex, 2,600. But yet we have a whole lot of street committee that's working the social media all night and want to disagree. Well, when I put out the facts, I tell them, get off the keyboard.
There you go. There you go.
Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the final moment here on the People's Choice here on WCEG Talk Radio, the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group Network. You know, it has been a pleasure. Pastor Williams, it's very rare that we get such charismatic.
We're going to have to get him back.
but
I've lost you. He froze.
He froze. we're going to have to get you back,
to make
Pastor
sure we
Williams.
get to a better place. And so we thank you so very much for joining us. We appreciate you for taking the time out of your schedule. Trust me, we'll have you back more because you got something to say. That makes a whole
looking forward to it. I appreciate you all for having me.
So thank you so very much for joining us. And please tell us again your church. Maybe we can get some folks to come out there and see you.
The Power of Good News Community CME Church. We're not in the building as of yet. We will be first Sunday in January, but you can look me up on Facebook. I go live every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. Gregory Williams, check me out on Facebook Live every morning at 7 o'clock. Send me a request, and we'll have you on. Just make sure you're not a spam trying to get me to buy money in Nairobi.
That's exactly what's happening. Damita, thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow is election day.
Yes.
We want you all to get out there and vote. I'm discouraged by the small number of people that is going out, but I believe that on tomorrow that you will make your voices heard, and that you will get out and make sure that the city of South Fulton has its mayor, and that the city of Atlanta has its new mayor and city council in both areas. And wherever else there are elections going on, we encourage you to get out and exercise your right to vote. We say it often, we say it a million times. People have died, ladies and gentlemen, so that you can get out here and be able to exercise this right to vote. And whether you agree with every candidate or everything that is taking place, it does not matter. Somebody's got to serve, and you have to make sure that we get the right people in office by exercising your right to vote. Damita, is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, I say thank Reverend Williams. He was awesome. We're going to have to get him back on. I enjoyed him. Joe, I enjoyed working with you.
Damita, you're the best. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if y'all noticed today, but we got on this pink and black, and we were mighty sharp today. This is Pat Sajak and Vanna White over here. We got
great team.
But one last time before we close out, Reverend Williams, show us that shirt.
Show us the shirt.
Register.
Go up, go vote. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here on the People's Choice on WCEG Talk Network. We appreciate you. Thank you to everyone that joined in. We'll talk to you soon.